Joe Biden has unveiled the team that will shape American foreign policy under his presidency. He claimed America is back, ready to lead the world. The Biden team's global worldview does differ sharply from President Trump's America First approach. He still hasn't conceded that he lost the election, but the transition is gathering pace. Scotland's become the first country to make female sanitary products free as it tries to end period poverty. There is now a legal duty on authorities to ensure items such as tampons and sanitary pads are available without charge to anyone who needs them. Christmas has been given the go-ahead across the UK. Families are being told they can celebrate together. Ministers from all four nations have agreed on broad rules which they say strike a balance between allowing people to meet loved ones and the risks involved in that.
Most Asian markets outside China closed higher, and European shares rose in early trading. U.S. futures also rose after President Trump said yesterday his administration would begin coordinating with President-elect Joe Biden's transition team after a weeks-long delay. The General Services Administration said it will start providing Biden's team with federal resources that would pave the way for a smooth transfer of power. This after Democrats and an increasing number of Republicans had criticized the delayed transition process. Trump said he'd instructed aides to cooperate with the transition approved by the GSA, though he pledged to continue his legal efforts to overturn the election result. Biden yesterday revealed his picks for national security posts and is expected to announce more appointments and nominations in coming days. Retailers, including Best Buy and Gap, report quarterly earnings today, just days before the biggest U.S. shopping day of the year. Black Friday sales are expected to rise from a year ago despite the pandemic, as more consumers do their shopping online, according to the National Retail Federation.
We begin with the latest on the transition of power in Washington. President-elect Joe Biden has formally introduced several nominees to fill top national security and foreign policy posts in his cabinet. And as expected, he is signaling a sharp departure from the Trump administration's America First agenda.
It's a team that will keep our country and our people safe and secure. And it's a team that reflects the fact that America is back, ready to lead the world, not retreat from it.
Biden held a news conference on Tuesday. He was joined by Vice President-elect Kamala Harris and the individuals he's selected. Most of the nominees must be confirmed by the Senate. Antony Blinken was picked as Secretary of State. He served as Deputy Secretary of State during former President Barack Obama's second term. Biden nominated former Deputy CIA Director Avril Haines to be the Director of National Intelligence. She'll be the first woman to hold that post if she wins confirmation. Alejandro Mayorkas was nominated to be the Secretary of Homeland Security. He'll be the first Latino and first immigrant to fill that role if confirmed. The news conference was held one day after the country's General Services Administration cleared the way for the transition of power to officially begin. But President Donald Trump has still not conceded defeat. Well, Abraham Lincoln's cabinet has been characterized as a team of rivals. John F. Kennedy's advisors have been called the best and the brightest. Political scientists are already trying to gauge how these appointees might shape Biden's presidency. One of them is Matthew Weil, who leads the elections project at the Bipartisan Policy Center. NHK World's Catherine Kobayashi spoke with him earlier.
Mr. Weil, what beliefs do you think the people standing behind the president-elect share about America's role in the world?
I think what we're seeing from the president-elect is that he is picking people to represent him in government who have a feeling that America is part of a global community. This is not a go-it-alone administration. This is not America First. I think the president-elect really wants to show the world and show all Americans that we can do good things in this world, and there are a lot of challenges, but we need to remain part of the big global community, not just doing it all on our own.
I see. And was there an appointment, a nominee that stood out to you?
These are all great nominees, honestly, and all of them have extensive experience in government, including during the administration of President Obama. I think one kind of key indication that we saw from the president-elect is that he's going to elevate our UN ambassador to the rank of cabinet. And what that means functionally is that the UN ambassador will be in the room for all of the major decisions. That hasn't happened over the past 4 years, and I think, again, what the president-elect is trying to show us is that we are part of the entire world. America wants to regain that status as one of the leaders of a democratic world, and that's where we're going.
The president-elect and his team now have access to information they did not have before on national security, on the pandemic. What's different from 24 hours ago?
I mean, certainly because the president-elect has surrounded himself with many old government hands who know what they're doing. The biggest benefit of the official start of the transition is the fact that the Biden-Harris administration incoming transition team has access to money for offices, official government money, and they also have access to government security clearances, which will give them access to a lot of the information that we know some of it, but they will have all of the key information that is held at the highest levels of government. They'll also be allowed to interact directly with many of the administration offices, the Treasury Department, the State Department, whereas right now they're doing everything kind of on their own. They'll have the ability to go through government channels.
And how do you expect the rhetoric from President Trump will change, if at all?
I think that he took a good step yesterday, allowing the transition to continue. Unfortunately, I think the president is who the president is. I don't expect a huge amount of change. Certainly, he's indicated that when he leaves office, he's going to immediately become a candidate for president 4 years from now. And so certainly the rhetoric has gotten him pretty far. He got the most votes of any presidential candidate ever in history. And so my expectation is we won't see a big change in President Trump.
Thank you for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
So an orderly transfer of power is finally underway. We'll be following all the details and we'll bring you the latest. But for now, let's hand it back to our studio in Tokyo.
Now, recent developments in the United States have also made for a historic day at the New York Stock Exchange. The Dow Jones Industrial Average hit 30,000 points for the first time. Share prices in New York have been rallying in recent weeks on the expectation coronavirus vaccines will be available soon. They've also been gaining in anticipation of Biden formally beginning his transition to the White House. President Trump welcomed the financial news in a brief statement to reporters.
The stock market's just broken 30,000. Never been broken, that number. That's a sacred number, 30,000. Nobody thought they'd ever see it.
But some analysts say U.S. markets could be at risk of falling in the months ahead. Coronavirus cases continue to surge across much of the nation, and millions of Americans are still out of work. International donors are pledging a projected $12 billion over 4 years to help the reconstruction of Afghanistan. But many of the aid offers come with conditions for a country still racked by violence and financially strapped by the coronavirus pandemic. The United Nations and Finland co-hosted a virtual conference from Geneva on Tuesday, with leaders and representatives from more than 60 countries taking part.
We must bring an end to the violence that is haunting our lives and robbing our children of the joys of childhood.
Peace talks between the government and the Taliban militant group started in September, but Afghanistan still faces fighting and terrorist attacks. A Finnish official told reporters donor countries have pledged $3 billion next year, with annual commitments expected to stay the same through 2024. Japan's Foreign Minister Motegi Toshimitsu said Japan will keep its assistance unchanged over the next 4 years at $180 million annually.
We strongly hope that the negotiations will lead to sustainable peace and ensure the achievements of the nation building that's occurred in the past 19 years.
He added Japan is ready to consider additional support if progress is made in the peace process. Japan's defense ministry has released an interim report saying alternatives to the Aegis Ashore land-based missile defense system are estimated to be more expensive than the original plan. The ministry has been studying sea-based alternatives. The report estimates constructing 2 vessels and equipping them with the advanced Aegis radar system could cost more than $4.5 billion. These would offer the highest capability and mobility. Building them would take about 5 years, the same as Aegis Ashore. Now, the original plan projected the cost of installing 2 Aegis Ashore units would be about $3.8 billion. The ministry also estimated the cost of other options, such as using private sector vessels or building structures similar to oil rigs. A panel of experts advising Japan's health ministry has warned rising coronavirus infections could deal a serious blow to the nation's medical system.
If the current situation continues, patients who would normally be saved may not survive.
Wakita says hospitalizations and serious cases are on the rise, forcing hospitals to limit surgeries and emergency services. The experts say infections are surging mainly in the northern prefecture of Hokkaido and metropolitan areas around Tokyo, Osaka, and Nagoya. They say the central government and local municipalities need to act on a plan that was proposed by another government advisory panel last week. That plan recommends reviewing government campaigns aimed at boosting the tourism and restaurant industries. It also suggests that hospitality businesses shorten their hours and urges people to avoid non-essential outings. The panel also says regions where medical services are under strain need to put in place tougher measures to limit social contact. Nationwide, a record 345 coronavirus patients were in serious condition on Tuesday. That's roughly twice as many as a month ago. Now, there were more than 1,200 new cases reported across the country on Tuesday. Over 130,000 people have tested positive since the outbreak began, with the death toll exceeding 2,000. Japan is set to boost subsidies for people buying electric vehicles as it tries to get on the road to a greener future. The government currently offers EV buyers up to about $4,000. But NHK has learned the Environment Ministry is planning a new subsidy that could roughly double that. To get the extra support, drivers must be able to charge their cars with power from renewable sources, such as solar panels at their home. People in Japan bought about 20,000 electric cars last year. That's way below the roughly 1 million vehicles sold annually in China. Japanese sales also trail places such as Germany and France. The government aims to start the new subsidy by early next year. It'll last for a limited time. Auto exhaust makes up about 15% of Japan's carbon emissions.